I think I've pressed the live button anyway.
Oh, it'll be there. It'll be there.
I'm just gonna text him. We've had there's so much thing. Mark, here we go. See, I've had a thumbs up from him earlier on.
Okay.
So what I shall do is send him a message saying, "You okay, bro?"
Nope. Well, I bet that's a notification telling you that we're on.
Yeah, someone called Raconteurs News is on somewhere.
It is amazing though how people have started to begin shows a little bit early. It's amazing that, isn't it? Anyway, is it time to press? Yeah, is it time to press the E button?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's time to press the up and down remote control of my wonderful lift. Yeah, we'll press the E button.
Press the E button.
Just give me a
press it.
Anyway.
Good evening, welcome to Raconteurs News. We've got a Mark with us as well. Look at that. That'll happen quick.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. I'm sure Jason can.
Yeah, just the music had just started for me. I was just getting into it, and then you started going, "Hey, what's us? Raconteurs News. Good evening and welcome." So I'm obviously behind. I don't know what that is. I really don't know what that is. And Ade, carry on. You were doing the introduction, so
was I doing it right? Okay. Well, I actually expected that it's coronavirus. It's corona, but we're not going to do that. And we've done that. We're doing that every other night of the bloody week, and so is everybody else. No doubt we'll be back probably tomorrow or Thursday or whatever. But thankfully, we are here to do the show that we put off doing last week because there was that much happening. And we've got Mark Conlon with us, and Mark's going to talk about Flight 93 and other 9/11 juicy bits. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. Nice to be back. And on subject.
And on subject, yeah. Which is, at the moment, makes a change for everybody, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Very draining.
It's a nice. Can you just get a bit closer to your mic a bit, Mark?
Yeah. Hang on. I'll just pull. Hang on a second. So I've got some notes because there's a lot of dates.
Yeah, that's fine. And if you need to share your screen, I think you can do that, can't you, Jason?
Yeah, you can share his screen, but not, that's not rude or like that. We don't do blue here on that. Do you remember that when it used to be called? Oh, he's a bit blue. They talk about like Bob Monkhouse, and they say like when he's live, oh, he's so blue. It's so blue, you won't believe it. But we don't do any blue on here.
Good comedian Bob Monkhouse was though.
Was he really?
Pardon?
Was he really Canadian?
No. I said he was a good comedian.
Oh, I thought you said he was Canadian.
Good stand-up, yeah.
He was one of the best. He was one of the best comedians, wasn't he? He had a one-liner for every single situation that you could imagine. And he studied comedy and videoed everything. I saw a program on him, and he videoed every single thing that were on TV to watch it, to see how it worked and what it did, and try to pick it apart and stuff like that. And he had like a container, a lorry container full of videos of what he'd done. So anyway, I don't know how we got onto Bob Monkhouse.
I don't, but we've worked out, actually, I've worked out we don't need Mark tonight because we've got Uni Black Sister, and apparently Taylor knows everything there is to fucking know about 9/11. So that's it. You can go and watch somebody else's show tonight then. See you later, Taylor.
Although there's no one worth watching, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right to stop here. Jason, look, you were a lot more rooted and it was kind of what kind of got you going with all this stuff, and it wasn't for me, although it should have been. So you kind of need to do the bit of the introduction-y thing and introduce Mark properly and kind of guide him through where you want to go, or how do you want to do it? You're the 9/11 guy, not me.
Well, not specifically. Did I? I mean, not specifically in Flight 93. I think anybody that was in the 9/11 community back then, anyone that were investigating. Remember the T-shirts, investigate 9/11, and the people would have on, and they were that time when that happened. But there were a lot of different theories, and it seems to have. I mean, we're nearly 20 years after the fact, and Mark has obviously done some research because of. I had a look through your Flight 11 one today because I couldn't find the Flight 93 one. I don't know why. Article that you've written. But I did have a look at through the Flight 11 one, which is that's the first one in the North Tower. We've got him on, guy. We've got him on, and I wanted to get him on before all this fucking stupidness started, where everyone was shit scared. Oh my god, I was stood next to somebody, and I mean, what do they do on tube? It's always crammed on tube, isn't it? They're all stood there. Before that all happened, anyway, I'd intended to get Mark on. He's a friend of our friends as well at Unite Planet. So I thought, and when I knew he'd done this Flight 93 this report, shall we call it, or what would you call it anyway?
I'd call it a collation of a lot of fractured official evidence. And I've sort of brought it together because it's quite fractured, and it paints a different story to what a lot of evidence that's out there. You can be misinterpreted, I think. And I'm not saying this is exactly what has happened. I've just brought it together, and I'm trying to put a narrative and present it from and some of the official tidbits of evidence that's out there, really. And there is evidence out there, it's just not been brought together very, very well, I think.
Well, I'm just going to add Adie, because Adie strategically removed himself from the screen so that the RN doesn't obscure his beautiful face.
No, if only.
It's not so much that it's obscuring your beautiful face, it's that your head's that big and wide, and you can. It's going to be.
I could move the camera further back if you want.
Oh no, you're all right. That's fine. We love you as you are. Anyway, Mark, you were saying, you collated a lot of evidence on Flight 93. I've done a bit on Flight 93 myself, as we've talked about in the past. What if anything? And I'm really sorry for not reading it because I've meant to read it, but there's just been so much going on. I pretty much you've got some flight data in there, haven't you?
There's some telemetry data in there. To do with and there's some. I've done a bit around the air traffic control because they paint two different pictures of what's happening as it's unfolding.
Right.
And there's some evidence that I've picked from all sorts of sources, whether it's some of the accounts of people who were actually working at Newark.
Mark, before we get into that,
flick some of the data.
Mark, before we get into that, can we just explain what Flight 93 was, where it was going from, where it was supposed to be going to? My memory tells me it went from Newark, which is the one just into New Jersey, that kind of seconds as a for New York.
Yeah.
And it's a normal morning flight to it's not Los Angeles, is it? San Francisco, that's right, yeah. Which I'm assuming is what? I don't know. How long would that flight normally take?
Oh, now you're asking me a question off the top of my head. Because
about 3 or 4 hours, I would have thought, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a long flight. This is on 9/11. We're talking about some of but where did you say? It's going from Newark to San Francisco. It's an enigma in itself, isn't it? I mean, they all, without looking at what you've said and what you've written, I did manage to find your Flight 11 one today, which I had a skim through, and I watched some of the videos clips that you put in there that I've not seen before or heard before, because a lot of them are air traffic control and phone calls between different departments. So, I mean, what I want to ask you, what led you to Flight 90? What led you to Flight 93 specifically, or was it just part of doing them all? Because I know you've done Flight 11. I mean, is 175 and then 77, I think, other one. Is that next, or?
It was 11, American Airlines 11, then apparently United Airlines 175, then Flight 93, then Flight 77, and then United Airlines 93. Which was
77 is the one that went into the Pentagon, isn't it? We Hanya allegedly at the wheel, flying at 500 miles an hour, about 3 feet off the ground into Pentagon. You know, a kid who couldn't even drive a Cessna.
I think what we should do is replace a couple of words here. Instead of allegedly, we should use the word Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It just kind of fits, really, doesn't it? Somehow.
Yeah. And Wikipedia. That's going to be hard to put that in, I think. In place of allegedly. I'm so used to saying allegedly with this case.
Yeah.
Well, there's no need for any allegedly. I mean, for a start, anything that you said about any of that I would imagine would have come under the statute of limitations in America, and you wouldn't, will be there are people that have researched Flight 93. There's people that have researched everything. There's every single part of 9/11 that's been researched. So when we're talking about Flight 93, which is the one that crashed in Shanksville, what was it that what was the thing that stood out for you from that?
Well, it was just a hole in the ground, or a crater. That was what stood out, really. That was in plain sight at that time. That's where I, really started getting into that then. And then it obviously loose change around that time. Yeah,
so there were somebody that said that it looked like somebody dug an hole and then chucked a load of scrap into it. The hole weren't big enough. I mean, then you've got all the you've got Val McClatchy and End of Serenity photograph that she sold. I don't know how many she sold, but she made a fortune out of it. And of course, then there's also the legend that has come from Flight 93, which is "Let's roll."
Yeah, the phone call. Yeah,
the phone call. Yeah. The phone call.
These are things that I'm not aware of.
Right. Okay.
I think generally people would be interested to know, though. These are the juicy bits. That I suppose you.
Yeah, I mean, this has been quite a long process for me on this, because same as probably it is for Jason. I got into it must have been about 2005, 4, around that time. I'd say 2005. It's just through an internet radio show called Black Op Radio, and then that led me on. Right, but if I go back to 1988, I don't know whether either you remember a show that went out, or program called The Men Who Killed Kennedy. It's quite a controversial.
Oh, yeah. It was a History Channel thing, weren't it?
Yeah, well, it was actually made by Central Television in Birmingham.
Oh, right.
And that went out, and that caused quite a lot of few ripples. That's what really got me going back in 1988. And get about the conspiracy stuff, and then when 9/11 happened, I didn't connect it straight away. It took me 2 or 3 years, to sort of get suspicious.
The absolutely strange anomalies. I mean, when you mentioned, was it Mark Bingham that said let's roll? He was the guy that said let's roll, weren't it?
I think it was Todd Beamer, weren't he? I think
Todd Beamer. But Mark Bing, there was one particular. I did a little bit of work on loose change, so I got all this stuff going around me. Ed, and I remember a particular incident where they were talking. There was a transcript of a phone call between Mark Bingham and his mum. He'd rung his mum up.
Yes.
And he says, "Hey, mum, it's me, Mark Bingham." Now, who says that? Yeah, it's me, Mark Bingham. And then he says, "We've been hijacked. We've been hijacked. We don't know what's going to happen. You do believe me, don't you? You do believe me, don't you?" And he would kept reiterating it. I mean, who for a start, who says that? It's me, Mark. You ring your mum up, Adie, and go, "Hey, mum, it's me, Adie." Yeah, you know, that's not a natural thing to do, is it?
What, you know what? When I was on holiday recently in Thailand, I rung my mum, but I ring her through Skype. Now, she's not got a smartphone; she's just got an old 3G phone. She'd never handle a screen that you could actually touch. Anyway, I ring her through Skype. Now, I didn't realise what I'd done was rung her home number rather than her mobile number. And I went, and she went, "Hello?" I went, "Hello, it's me. Who am I talking to?" And even when she said, "Who am I talking to?" the words that automatically came out of my mouth was, "It's me, you knobhead." I didn't even say my name. I just said, "It's me, you knobhead." And then she went, "Oh, hello, love." So even when she asked me, I didn't say my name because it's just not a natural response, is it?
No, not at all.
The other thing as well, I've got this thing, you know, when I'm on a plane now, I'm looking at it, and when we're coming down, I'm trying to estimate how low we are and how many bars of signal I've got on my phone. And I tell you what, much above 1,500 feet, and there's no signal. So how all these bloody people are supposed to make phone calls, God knows.
No, you can't, because there's something called handoff. As it passes from one, as you're travelling, because of the speed, as it passes from one cell tower to the other, there's like in the middle, if you put the two circles together, there's a period of time where one drops and picks it up.
Yeah,
it's unnoticeable, and you cannot have handoff at that speed. You just can't do it. Even
I mean, the anomalies as well. I mean, they were weren't they? Betty Ong, I think you'll know that name, won't you? Betty Ong. She was a stewardess on a flight attendant, what you want to fucking call them these days. Back on flight 11, weren't she?
Yes.
And she was on the phone, and then she sort of says, I could see water. There's buildings. Oh no. And like, you're thinking to yourself, this is a woman who's flown into New York so many times and would know where that New York is, that she's in New York. She'd say we're entering New York. We're entering. Instead of that, it's like there's buildings, water. Oh no! Oh. I don't recognise New York. I've been there 1,000 times. It's just all these things that are just to
remembering that phone call. She mentions flight 12, not 11.
Oh, right.
Oh, does she?
How many people? I've read different numbers, Mark. How many people were on 93? Because I don't think it's really a busy flight that day, was it?
No. I've got the numbers somewhere. I can
it's only sort of 30 or 40, including the four henchmen, the alleged henchmen.
Yeah, but the plane wasn't full now. Not even a third, I don't think. Full. But you had another lady on there called Madeline Amy Sweeney, and she talked about flight 12 as well, being at gate 32. And this is during the flight. And two people who took that call actually went down to gate 32 and found an empty plane, or found a plane at that gate. It's something I talk about in that paper, article actually.
What's always sort of stuck in my mind is, even before 9/11, the most surveilled buildings in the world were airports.
Yeah.
Not only for movement of traffic on the ground and in the air, but movement of people as well.
Yes.
Because of security, because we were, of course, pre 9/11, we were kind of post Northern Ireland. And the troubles and how it spilled over into London and other places and stuff like that. Something which I was very young and I know very, very little about. So we were kind of aware of, and even before 9/11, surely there should be video of people getting on, getting off, because normally it's like, you don't get a news thing saying, "Oh, a woman's put a cat in a bin." You get the video of it.
Oh
on the telly.
yeah.
So where's the video of all these people who are now dead, supposedly, getting on a plane?
Well, that is one of the major discrepancies in it all, really, because there was a lady whose husband was on United Airlines 175, and she took another flight. There was nothing two places, they were going meeting up, and she tried to get the CCTV of her husband boarding the plane.
Really?
But she's never been able to get that. I think her name Helen Miriami or something like that, or Miriani, off the top of my head. And she tried to get hold of that CCTV. Although I have discovered some new evidence, well, I call it new evidence. I did manage to get hold of a couple of photos of some alleged, I'll say alleged, because I'm still analysing one of the photos of some of the passengers allegedly getting on flight 77. I haven't put that work out yet, which is a photograph that shows some of the passengers boarding, or allegedly boarding, which should have been at gate 26. And that's the bit I'm trying to confirm at the moment with that flight. I haven't put anything out on that flight. In fact, I've not put anything out on the Pentagon just yet, because there's such a lot of new stuff that I've sort of come across at the moment. It needs sort of putting into some type of framework so people can understand the evidence, basically, because the crime scene, as you know, Dr. Judy Wood has done an incredible job of the forensics to do with the towers. Now, there's been a little bit of work done, which I did with Chris Hampton for his film 9/11 Alchemy, and we sort of collaborated on some research on the Pentagon, actually, and there's some unusual evidence to do with that, which is not normal to do with, or I would say, to do with a missile, which is one of the common other alternative theories, and to do with some of the bodies that were actually in there. So some of the photos, some unusual anomalies in them photos. I'm not saying the photos are fake. An example is you've got bodies in the Pentagon which are burnt up. They look burnt to, badly burnt, but their clothes are intact. They're not burnt at all. Now that is unusual. And
you get the unusual thing as well. I mean, once but people perhaps don't understand this, but when whatever hit the Pentagon hit it, it left a hole. It didn't collapse immediately. It left a hole, and the hole was never big enough for a 767 to go through.
I think it was a 767-300, wasn't it? I think
it would never. But when it did collapse, there was the poignant picture of a book that was on a pedestal that was opened at a page, like a big Bible that would be on a pedestal, and it would open at a page, and no fire damage whatsoever. In fact, I'm going to try and find that. Well, you two carry on. I'm going to find that picture because I think that says a lot.
Well, that crime scene has not been. I mean, Dr. Wood did an absolutely amazing job of what she's collated and what she's put forward in her book, Where Did the Towers Go? Which sort of led, when Chris asked me to, help him with his research on the film, I really went into that, the Pentagon. And there's some, I got some, when I publish it, it's in his film anyway, part of it, some of the evidence. The roof damage is completely inconsistent with anything going off. It's completely inconsistent. And we also found somewhat which if ever you get round to watching the film, and I'll explain, it was what they call thermal blooming effect, which is related to some type of directed energy being used at that site. Again, every site involved in 9/11, they've not been able to rebuild on, or the Twin Towers, they didn't rebuild on that site. They put a water feature in. You got water features at the Pentagon, which tie in with some effects which I've mentioned. And you've also got water features going on at Shanksville.
Really?
Yeah, you have, yeah. Because they've got a problem with the water contaminant around that area. Now, they found levels of, I don't know whether you remember at the Twin Towers, there was, and this is where the thermite deception, I would say, come in, to do with the iron microspheres.
Yep.
Do you remember that with Stephen E. Jones?
Yes.
Well, it's more of a they say it's a byproduct of thermite, or thermite. But the thing is, them towers are made up of the components of thermite. They were turned to dust. If you turn something to dust and you got the components of thermite acted as a good cover story. I mean, that's not really where I talk about. That's more to do with Andrew and Dr. Judy Wood's speciality. But what you found in the water in Shanksville was very similar to do with iron. And they had a problem getting that iron out the water. And they've had a continuous water feature going since they've had to try and remedy that problem. Which brings us on. Well, carry on, yeah.
No. If you were just going to carry on with your flow, carry on. I was just going to ask a question, but what's this Jason's put up?
I've just put that's the book. Can you see? There's a book open on on
a stool
that's not burnt at all. That's the side of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And that's after the collapse. Remember, the Pentagon didn't collapse. There was a hole in it that was that never got. You never get in an aeroplane in there unless you're a remote control one. It's obviously a missile site, and there were people that said at the time that they could smell cordite, and cordite is what is used in missiles. Apparently, this is what I'm told. 93. We're talking about
the Pentagon hit. Just mention something. When you look at the magnetometer data with all them events, which Dr. Wood mentioned in her book to do with some of the spikes and fluctuations, you've got some same spikes at 10:03 in Shanksville and 10:06. And I know there was a discrepancy in the official story, in the narrative, to do with 10:03 and 10:06. They didn't go with the 10:06 crash time. And there's quite a good reason for that, which I can allude to later. But even at the Pentagon, you've got a spike in the Earth's magnetic field, which you don't get. You shouldn't have. Explosions and kinetic energy does not cause that type of activity in the Earth's magnetic field. And also, there's the seismic, which is something we found, which is in the film 9/11 Alchemy, to do with this electrical problems which are going on at all the sites that are involved with the planes. There's electrical problems, and one of them, caused a complete outage in Shanksville. That alleged plane crash caused a complete outage of the electric and the phones. And not a lot of people know as well. There's evidence, again, which is on Tom BitTube channel. There's evidence of people being levitated. Again, this ties in with what you're getting at the World Trade Center event.
Not them poor fuckers that were jumping from fucking World Trade Center. They weren't levitated, were they? Poor bastards.
No.
That must have been
they would have left that building because of what was going on with the field effect, probably from what's in Dr. Wood's book is to do with the probably very microwave somehow, which is what you get into. Which is what you get into.
I've had Dr. Judy Wood on this show. We've had Dr. Judy Wood on this show with Andrew Johnson before. A couple of years ago when Andy were still working with me. But I never really quite got it, particularly because I don't quite understand the science. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I wasn't able to get it. So if anyone's got I know copies of Judy Wood's book are about $300 or whatever on Where Did the Towers Go? If you want to buy one on eBay. So if anybody's got one out there and wants to lend it me, I will promise to send it you back with a signed photo of me doing that. And, so that I can read it, because I know I think Bex has got it, hasn't she? But I don't think she has left it out of the site.
Yeah, but we don't need a book. We don't need one of them books. All we need is Uni Black's sister. He's writing a book now on there. That's what he's doing, so that everybody knows that we know what he knows before we know he knows, because he knows. Apparently.
He knows what? He knows what we don't know.
Apparently.
Oh well, he's been around a lot longer than us. He's been. He's been round. He's been round a lot longer than us.
Just before we chip back in with Mark, Nick GB put a comment in the chat room asking if we could post a thing about Coventry and what they're doing with vaccines and stuff. And then somebody put in that she couldn't actually Nick couldn't post it. Only moderators. So Nick, if you can either send it to me or Jason, and one of us will try and do it. Not that I'm good at that because it's technical stuff. But yeah, send it to either me or Jason on the email and do that.
Yeah, you can email me, jasonholmes98@aol.com. I know people, somebody even emailed my wife asking for my email address. So I don't get it out often enough. It is on at the beginning, but I don't know whether you can see it, because I can see it, but I can't hear it. And it's going down, 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 down. Anyway, we must get that sorted out. It's Flight 93. What do you think happened to Flight 93? Do you think it actually crashed at the site where we're told, or when we're out working on Loose Change, we got some sort of theory that it landed in Cleveland?
Well, that is part of that is in this paper that I wrote to do with Cleveland. I was very skeptical for a while to do with the evidence around Cleveland because of the other evidence that I had gathered to do with the actual flight going to and landing at Reagan National Airport at 10:28. And I gathered quite a lot of evidence on that, which left me thinking, this Cleveland landing is a bit, I don't quite get that. However, when I delved even deeper and I went into the telemetry data, it leads me to believe, and this is in conjunction with the other flights as well, that somehow there was 2 Flight 93s identifying itself. That's in the paper, and there's data to sort of suggest that. And perhaps one of the others did land at Cleveland, because there was a lot of confusion as well going on to do with Flight 175. Because they even said that was officially unaccounted for, which I put videos in the article of, to do the news footage and, official United.
Which plane was it? They were on. If you went on the FAA website, you could put a plane number in, a tail number in, and it would tell you, about the plane. And out of the 4, there was one that was all 3 of them were listed as destroyed, and the 4th one wasn't. And wasn't there this guy who was a steward who was a bit of a geek, and he took the tail numbers of all the planes that he was on, and he went on Flight 93 after the flight that was the actual aircraft that was Flight 93 that day. He went on that and said, "Oh my God, this is." When he made the, he put that out there. I don't know what happened to him.
It was in April 2003. That was. I can't remember his first name. Might be Marty. Was it Fried? Not Marty Friedman. His last name was Friedman. Anyway, I can't remember his first name. But that was 2003. Some people have disputed that. But again, it's not completely out of the question, because the listing of the destroyed in 28th of September of the two United planes on the 28th of September 2005, that is used as evidence. Now, if you go on the list for listing the destroyed aeroplanes, it's not unusual for them to take up to 4 years to be, listed, deregistered. So that point can be easily debunked. So I'm sceptical about people using that point. And there's a lot of people who do use it. And it's something you can just easily debunk, because, which I put on my blog site, I can list planes that have took up to 3, 4, 5 years to be deregistered, that, are not involved in any, type of what we're on about here. It's some covert conspiracy. So that point is quite a weak assertion to make, because it's debunkable.
Well, thank you very much.
I never use that point. Eh?
I said, well, thank you very much. I wish I'd not brought it up now.
No.
Listen, I like debunkable stuff. I like, as long as we've talked about it. If it's debunkable, it's debunked. I'm not bothered. It's just that I like talking about this sort of stuff.
No. Well, it may be true, but what I'm saying is, because it, you've got the other side where it can take up to 4 years. People tend to use that to make it, weakens the actual other evidence to prove that them planes didn't crash, in my opinion, for me. So, there's no way it crashed in Shanksville. But I can tell you now, after all the witnesses we looked at that we put in the film, they did see a large plane heading towards the ground.
This is in Shanksville.
Yeah, I particularly did a study of quite a lot of witnesses. Now, again, we've had the multiple missile theory, being put out, which is fine. I haven't got a problem with that. But the witnesses, unless you're going to round them all up and pay them off and keep it tight, there's a problem there, because they seen a plane, same as what you had at the Twin Towers. People seen planes. Yes, they've seen small-looking plane, a big plane. And, if you're going to go with the video fakery at the World Trade Center, you've got to control every single video. And I have spoke to independent witnesses who are not being on the telly, who in fact can't watch some of the footage because they don't want to sort of re-traumatize themselves. And that they have told me they seen what they took to believe was a plane hit the Twin Towers, including Flight 11. Now, for me, the crash physics doesn't add up on that. There's anomalies in the videos, and that was explained quite early on, 2004, that it was video fakery. Now, the video fakery aspect of that does not stand up under the real scrutiny what you put it under, especially in the film September Clues. And I've gone through that film with a fine tooth comb.
That was Simon Shack, weren't it? Simon Shack were doing that. His
real name's Simon Huyton, and people need to know that, because he's got a background that ties him into some very unusual places, and people are putting a lot of trust into that film, as I did at one point, because it pulls you in. When you realise their background, that his dad's got links to the UN, he's done work for the European Space Agency, his brother had connections to the Bin Laden family. That doesn't bode well for me, especially when I've gone through his film, and there's a lot of what I would call deliberate errors in that film to misdirect you away from the real evidence that's captured on the video cameras And a lot of them people who we spoke to briefly, Jennifer Spell, they was demonised, absolutely demonised, them videographers. And I've spoke to Jim Huey Brex, who took some footage, and it's on the conversations on my blog. He saw a plane and he heard a plane. But what we can't explain is what's captured in some of them, the anomalies in the videos, like the disappearing wing. Although we have explained it to some degree in the 9/11 Alchemy film, and we've done some new analysis on a lot of them films, and there's some things captured, like the missing wing, and we've sort of attempted to explain that and why that is happening. With some of the professional cameras, you've got a missing wing for 6 frames, which even if you had a solid object of a drone or a missile, like missiles don't create a plane-shaped hole in a building. A missile doesn't.
You're confusing me a little bit here. You're talking about Simon Chuck's September clues.
Yeah.
And sorry, basically dismissing those. Or I personally would, if anybody's not watched them, I'd get them to watch them, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then go to my blog.
There's some stuff in there. The thing that did it for me, which made it for me think, right, well, I'm not having this, were the nose out thing.
Oh well, yeah.
The nose out on one side. I mean, I weren't having that, right? I thought that must be something else. It's not the nose of the plane. It's just, it's just debris or it's something. But they were pinning that on that nose out coming through a building. How does a small? So, but I would really say to everybody, watch September Clues by all means, but just watch it with an open mind. It's entertaining anyway, shall we say?
Yeah. And then I would say go to my blog, the very earliest blogs, I would say, back in 2013 onwards, and I do an analysis of many points made in that film where I can prove, because he never corrected his mistakes. That's the thing. If you're genuine, you get something wrong, you update it. You move it along and you update it. He's never gone back and updated them points which are provably wrong, and I mean provably wrong. And the suggestion is some of it is deliberate misdirection. He's directing you off.
It is deliberate misdirection. I mean, he were a mate of Killtown's, and now we're sort of in Killtown's little circle at one point, and I know how corrupt and crap it were in there. I even had oh God, one night I got who won it? A phone, and I'd been arrested. Police came to my door.
Do you know, Jason and the words "I'd been arrested" have never ever surprised me.
Well, someone come to door. This is how long ago it were. It was 2006, I think. But
yeah.
We're not talking like the creeping state that we've got now, whereas they come and nick you for thought crime and all like that. Anyway, so I got a knock on the door, and this big copper stood there, and he says, "You've threatened someone on the internet, and we've got to arrest you." And he says, "I've had this on my fucking desk for so long, and I've fucking put it off and put it off. And now I've got note to do, so I'm coming and I'm arresting you." He says, "If you just take a caution, you'll be home in 40 minutes. And I just went in and I took a caution, and I was home in 40 minutes. Oh, I probably, if I'd have known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have said, fucking yeah, I'll take that. But, he was true to his word. I did, I got a caution for it, for malicious communication. This guy in New York. And I got told I weren't allowed to travel to America as well. So I got a caution and a travel ban. But all them years ago, it was just that's again something that's posted on a fucking internet forum. It were back then, and people are getting arrested for it. It was funny as all. Sorry, it was just probably the funniest thing ever. Nearly as funny as when I got two coppers in front of me while I were having a shit after they'd arrested me for blackmailing David Beckham. But that's a completely other show that you'll have to find somewhere else.
I think it was the bit where he threatened the copper and said, "Look, I'm either having a shit now or I'm having a shit in the back of your car."
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
Anyway.
Well, you know Killtown. Obviously, you know him, and you probably, I don't know, you knew him well. You know, there's a classic what he done with that, because one of the main features which I've uncovered is this need to portray the Michael Hezekiah video, the ghost plane video, as a fake video. There was a massive push to do that by a number of researchers who I've looked into. Killtown
is the Michael Hezekiah video the one where the plane, the wing disappears, or is it? It's from a similar position, isn't it?
It's from Battery Park, looking up, and the plane comes over.
Yeah.
On the ferry boat. He's not far from Carmen Taylor. Now,
the name rings a bell, and I remember Killtown talking about him. Yeah, go on, carry on.
So one of the main deceptive things they did with that video to try and prove it to be fake was to do with the audio, saying that, "Oh my God, a plane just hit the building." They played two videos that were aired. One was aired at 12 o'clock on 9/11 going into 9/12, and the other one was aired about 3:15 on 9/12. Now you get 13 seconds before that audio comes in. "Oh my God, the plane just hit the building." And what they deliberately did was they switched them videos and analysed them the wrong way around. Because one they played at 12 o'clock, they didn't run it for the full 13 seconds. So there's no audio on there. But when you turn them round and you analyse them the wrong way round, they say, "Oh, look, this audio is missing and this audio has been inserted in." Now that is a fake point and it's deceptive. And even worse, to make matters worse on that, Ace Baker did exactly the same, and he knew that the tracks.
Ace Baker, that's the name.
Okay,
hell.
Do you remember him?
Yeah. Oh, God.
He committed suicide. The one who committed suicide on Jim Fetzer's show. Do you remember he committed suicide? He's the guy who faked his suicide on Jim Fetzer's show.
Oh, right. Okay.
Do you remember?
I remember Ace Baker. I really do. I do. It's like you're bringing up all these names from the very past. You know, whether they're nicknames like Killtown and Michael Hezekiah and names I've not heard for years and years and years. But yeah, I remember them. I can't remember what I was doing yesterday. I think we're on the show, isn't it, this time? But yeah, all these things that you remember. Yeah, Ace Baker. So what did he do? He pretended to commit suicide on someone's show.
On Jim Fetzer's show, yeah. It was 2009, January, I think. But what I'm trying to allude to is both him and Killtown, and it's in Ace Baker's The American Psyopera film. He does this analysis in his film to do with missing audio, as if to imply that the audio of Michael Hezekiah was inserted in. But what he's actually done is he's used a later video that was edited for the America Remembers or America Rebuilds, and he's used that as his baseline to analyse from, which they shorten the length of 13 seconds down to 7. They cut it in half basically because it's a long period of time before you hear from Michael Hezekiah saying, "Oh my God, a plane's just hit the building." You know, so they analyse it the wrong way round, which makes it look like this audio has been added instead of using the original first. You analyse from that, not the one that's been edited already and gone into a DVD. And that was deceptive, and he knowingly did that because he even spoke about the audio track on the Hardfire show with Ron Wick, if you remember that guy in New York.
No, I don't remember him. Who was the guy that finished the show and then shot himself?
Ace Baker.
No, it wasn't Ace Baker.
Yeah,
no,
he staged it.
He what?
Well, Ace Baker staged his on Jim Fetzer's show. Now, Ace Baker was what they call a no-planer.
Right.
So what better way? And he inserted himself into that truth community, and he basically fractured it in the end.
Wow, it's a radio host I'm thinking of, not Ace Baker, definitely not Ace Baker, but there was somebody.
A radio host,
a popular radio host, who did a show, I think, on a Sunday night, and then after he'd finished, he didn't do it live on his show. After he's finished, he put a bullet through his head. Allegedly put a bullet through his head. You never know what happens with these people. I'm trying to find out. Just a talk show host commits suicide.
Am I down the wrong track with Bill Cooper?
Well, I was just going to say that. The only one I can think of is Bill Cooper who got shot.
But he was November
2001.
2001, yeah. He was.
He weren't Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper was shot by police, weren't it?
Yeah.
Bill Cooper was shot by police. No, this is somebody else.
On his own driveway, apparently.
I don't recall that one now.
No,
but
I'm going to find it.
I mean, going to the nose out, really, that there's a guy actually who I was in touch with called Conspiracy Cuba, and I've used some of his research. We've shared research and moved things along. He categorically shows you that, and it's hard to believe because you've had it so programmed in that it's the shape of a nose. If you analyse them videos the way he has and put in a short video, you can see it's a dust ejection on there. It's a dust ejection. And that's hard for people to believe because they've had it so programmed. But I would urge you to go and have a look. It's probably on my blog about what Conspiracy Cuba put out. He's got some of the best quality videos on there, and they stand the proper definition, not the really low quality one. Yeah, but that was exploited. That you're correct to say that nose out was exploited, and Ace Baker exploited it, and Simon Shack.
There was the other one that showed.
Ace Baker made a massive blunder with what he's called the Luma key, what he puts in his film called The Key, the segment called The Key in the American soap opera. Now, Luma keying to achieve the compositing does not work on that nose out because the brightness is set with the threshold in what they call a luminance key. Now, when that flame happens, the explosion, the luminance key cannot define the brightness, so it will make the explosion invisible if you're using that, an illuminant key setting with the software, like Ace Baker, asserts what happened, and it just doesn't work. You cannot achieve that with the compositing, and that isn't up for debate. You can go to my blog, you can watch that, it's demonstrated that it doesn't work. You wouldn't get that effect. And people are still running with this and putting it out like it's valid, and it's not anymore. And people need to be moving along. A lot of good research has been done since that come out in 2012, whatever it was, or 10.
Well, I've got to say, I've just been looking for that suicide. I can't find it anyway because I was looking on Prison Planet because I knew he had been on Prison Planet or he'd been a guest on Prison Planet. But it seems that Prison Planet is completely fucking blocked. So I can't get into it. But what I did notice is the amount of people that are committing suicide. These presenters, there were two. There were one that says one radio presenter commits suicide after walking out on the radio show, a BBC one. I don't remember that. Do you?
No, the only one I've ever known to do that was Jeremy Beadle, and who else has done that? The guy from Leeds. He's still on now, but he's on. I think he's on talk. James Whale, yeah. They've both walked out live. I was listening to Whaley, but in fact, Whaley's done it 3 times. I was listening to him twice when he's done it, but other than that, I don't know anybody else who has.
Well, I mean, they walked out and committed suicide. I mean, there were one.
Or even just walked out. You just done, you know.
A Fox News presenter walked out and just topped a sen, and the amount of them that are like, throwing a 7 is fucking incredible. Just look at how many suicides there's been, and DJs and stuff like that. There were one, I didn't actually read the article, but it said DJ who drove 100 miles, famous DJ, you know, successful, you know, relatively famous in what he does, drives 100 miles and commits suicide. I mean, it's just, it's crackers. I wish I'd not brought it up now. We were supposed to be talking about 9/11.
Yeah. I mean, if we go back, I mean, I know I've got on there about the video fakery. All I would say to people is that if you watch 9/11 Alchemy, you'll get a good idea of how video fakery isn't valid to explain the anomalies in the videos of Flight 175. That is not valid anymore. And there's a lot of evidence to show that.
I've watched loads of 9/11 stuff, nowhere near as much as Jason, but a lot. And when we had Dave Von Kleist on, Dave Von Kleist did In Plain Sight, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Because of how early it was, how he described it was, he was doing the radio show, and basically just flicked the button, went live on air, and said, "Look, whatever you're doing, stick a VHS in and send it to me." Yeah. So he said he ended up with this huge box full of local, national, and international TV channels, and he said, "I've got all this stuff." He says, "And all I'd got was questions, not any answers." And I think that's still true today. There's loads of different possible answers, and some seem more viable than others. But we don't know, and I guess we never will.
Well, yeah, to some degree. But there's some provable things that you can prove, which are not valid anymore, which you're slowly picking away. There's a lot of things made back in the day that really created a lot of noise, if you know what I mean. So it was been about for me, because I was a follower to begin with, and then I got into researching it and really picking the bones out. It's about separating some of the things that just are not valid. Now the pod, that's still going round. I can provably show that pod, where it's located on that plane, cannot be located there because the wheels, the flaps open up.
Right, that's exactly.
The flaps open up to let the wheels out. The pod would be in the way. And military planes don't have the pod located in that position.
The one thing that I saw with that pod was, could it be bomb doors? You know, but even that'd be one hell of a bloody bomb, wouldn't it? That big.
Yeah.
And but that thing wouldn't be able to lift it off the ground.
So what are you saying? You're saying you're not an advocate of the pod?
No, and the reason why is if you look close at the 757, 767s, United Airlines, Boeing, where that pod is located in the Rob Howard, that's probably the best photo, clearest, is Rob Howard's from the floor, from the ground up. If you look at a standard Boeing, let's say, we're going by it, because I don't think it was even some type of modified plane because of what's captured in the anomalies in the video. But the pod would have been located where the flap opens up to allow the landing gear out. Now, if there's a pod in that location, the flap can't open to allow the wheels.
So do you think there was a problem with the landing gear and they didn't really give a shit about it because it were a remote control plane?
Yeah, but it would still have to take off using landing gear.
No, yeah, and of course, yeah. But once it's taken off, right, and then they put the landing gear up, and then one sides don't go up because I know that they have, especially on Boeings. What would happen is if it didn't go up properly, there's a manual way to pull it up.
Right. Yeah.
So if that's a little bit down on one side, and if there's nobody in it, if it's remote controlled, or even well, it doesn't really matter if you're going to crash it into a fucking building. Don't matter what's wrong with it, does it? So then they crash it into the building. Let me just say we're at an hour.
Yeah.
You're listening to Raconteurs News on this Tuesday night. It's the 31st of March. It's April Fool's Day tomorrow, so you can April Fool's people, but you have to be 2 meters away from them when you do it. And if you don't know how far 2 meters away is, it's about as far as the average 3-year-old can piss.
No.
So
all you got to do is go to your local supermarket and there'll be a fucking Nazi there making sure that you stand exactly 2 meters away. He'll have his fucking tape measure out. So if you're not sure what 2 meters is, that's what it is. It's the difference between the fucking Nazi and the trolley.
Dude, I think what we should do is we're getting dangerously close to doing what we were promised we weren't going to be doing. Tonight. So, and listen, I've got a question for you, Mark. Seeing as we've talked about the pod and there's different things. I mean, it doesn't really matter what that pod were, but there are different theories of what it were, especially in early Loose Change. I think in Loose Change 1, they got the pod in it, but in Loose Change 2, they'd gotten rid of it. So, but there was also, and this again, something that they didn't cover on Loose Change, but they did cover on In Plain Sight, with the flashes on the building just prior to the buildings being hit.
Look like squibs.
What do you make of them?
Right, now I can. Again, I'm gonna have to refer back to the 9/11 Alchemy film because we cover that. The flashes. Now, the flash on Flight 11 is not the same type of flash that you see in the Flight 175 videos. It's very different. Now, if you're going with what we propose in the Alchemy film, which is to do with the electrical disturbances that was happening, especially around the building with the field effects, and with what we believe how they created the plane illusions. Because for me, I think even if you had a souped-up plane, you've still got to explain the anomalies captured in all the videos, not just one or two. All the videos have anomalies of that plane, whether it's a disappearing wing, disappearing tail section, the translucent wings. You wouldn't get that in a video of a normal plane or a souped-up plane. So that has to be explained. If you go with what we propose in the 9/11 Alchemy film, which is how they pulled off some type of volumetric 3D image projection, which Chris Hampton tracks some of the manufacturers of these and some of the contractors who were involved in 9/11. He puts that in his film, how they could actually pull that off, because they wouldn't have just pulled this off at the one event, although the big one obviously was Flight 175, where everybody was filming and videoing.
I just want to bring it back. I don't think you answered. For me, I'm a bit confused about the answer to the question that I asked, which was, what did you make of the flash? And now you were saying that it made some static charge.
Yeah, because if you look at the Burger King in New York, you had a lot of electrical disturbances at the time when the second plane goes in. Now, along with that electrical disturbance, which affects a lot of electricity, not just on the ground, televisions. Now they're going to say it's the antenna on the North Tower, but obviously it was the South Tower that was hit, not the North Tower of the antennas on. You had in the film, you will see a lot of electrical disturbances going on at that time. And you not only had electrical disturbances, you had a spike in the Earth's magnetic field, which you would not get with a conventional plane crash or conventional kinetic explosives. It spiked the Earth's magnetic field, and people need to look at that evidence.
Come on, Ade, you've got to say something, mate. You've got to say something. I mean, for me, that is probably about a 14,000. Sorry, about four or five different reasons down the line that I can buy.
So, if you look at some of John Hutchison's experiments, the boat experiment, you will see how them flashes could be created because of the byproduct of the field interference to do with what was creating the plane holes. And what I mean is by the plane holes, even if a conventional plane hit that building, it would not create a plane-shaped hole. Newton's third law would not allow that to happen.
I'd suggest that's false. I think it would. I think the kinetic energy would make that hole.
Okay, so if you've got the kinetic energy, then you would still have to have the plane travelling at 560 mile an hour. Now, in Richard D. Orr's models that he done with his 3D radar analysis, which he got from the RADAIS system, which he done with his 3D radar video, he confirmed that the plane would have had to have been travelling at 565 mile an hour.
It can't.
590. Now, they can't. They can't do that.
Can't do anywhere near that till he gets to 20,000 feet.
Yeah, you see, but that's something I can get on board. You know, when I ask you the question, when I say to you, yes, I believe it can make a plane-shaped impression in a building. Yeah. When you tell me that at that altitude, for a start, the air's too thick, the plane going at 500 odd miles an hour would just disintegrate. That's an answer. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I probably didn't explain it very well. So when the plane shape, now separate the plane shaped hole away from the plane just for the moment. If you're going to create a plane shaped hole in that building, and we're talking like a proper plane shaped hole, that is going to take some type of energy to do that. Now, a byproduct of the directed energy that Dr. Judy Wood talks about, and which is in John Hutchison's experiment on the boat that I'm talking about, his boat experiment, which again, it's in the film. I should have got you to watch the film. You get what they call these flashes, and they are not through anything hitting kinetically into a building. And in fact, with Flight 11, the flash happens before the plane even touches the building or alleged plane, the image of the plane. So it's some type of byproduct of whatever created that plane-shaped hole in that building. Now, that plane-shaped hole, as it was made, caused the Earth's magnetic field to spike. And if you look at the Earth's magnetic field, it does not spike when planes crash or go into buildings, especially not 4 times. And also when the buildings go away, as Dr. Judy Wood puts it.
Well,
so you're dealing with some type of directed energy that created them holes. And the byproduct is you can get these flashes. And if you look at John Hutchison's experiments, you get an understanding about what I mean. And the flashes as well, they're not, you can't relate them to sort of fire or things like that, you know, heat. Because you've got Ed and the Syntron studying that hole. I've got about 4 people who are studying that plane hole, more or less after that plane's meant to have erupted all that heat, and that has to be explained.
Can I just chuck something in here? And this might be a completely naive thing to say.
No.
I've seen the reports of the electrical interference that was going on.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've also seen the flashes. There are 3 as it goes in, yeah?
Yeah.
If there was a lot of electrical energy that day,
yeah,
for whatever reason,
yes,
even if it was a plane going in, would it not do what happens to an aircraft when it gets struck by lightning, and that's the lightning just completely goes around the fuselage, and hopefully it'll just kind of go in one end and out the other? Could that not have just been an arcing across when a metal plane, albeit mainly aluminium, I'm told, I don't know, I'm not an aero engineer, goes into a steel and glass constructed building? Surely, you know, this big tall thing is earthed, clearly, because it's stuck in it, and this thing is flying near it. Does that might be a completely naive question to ask?
That's a good question, but the problem with it is on flight 11, the plane has not touched the building when that flash happens.
Well, nobody wouldn't, would it? Because it flashes across. You know, it's like when you see these guys in the States, the Wichita linesmen, that's what they actually are. Yeah. You know, and these guys in the damp weather, some have died by getting electrocuted and they're nowhere near it. You know, and particularly on a wet day, if it's a certain percentage of water, they actually can't go to work because it's safer to go when it's actually raining.
Yes, and I completely get that, but the problem is you've got the Earth's magnetic field spiking. So there's some type of field interference that's causing that to happen.
It's
hard for people to get their head round. Obviously, we're talking about it, so it's difficult for them. If they went on my blog, you can see the site. You can see the magnetic field that the Earth's magnetic field spikes that I'm talking about. And it just didn't happen on flight 11. It happened on flight 175. It happened on 77, and it happened on 93. Also happened when the towers, and it did not go back to normal, the Earth's magnetic field, until after, you know, building 7 had gone down, gone away, wherever you want to put it. And then it all leveled back out again. There was a massive disturbance in the Earth's magnetic field between 8 o'clock and past 5 o'clock. Well, passed into the evening. Now, a lot of people don't want to talk about that evidence and how it correlates to the events of the buildings going away and the plane crashes.
So you're a no planer then, well, shall we say?
Well, I've come away from using that really because I've tried to find out. I did a bunch of research on the no plane stuff, and then I thought, well, what, you get that question, don't you, from everybody? Well, what happened to the real planes then, and all the people? So I got to a point when I thought, you know what, I want to find out what happened to them planes. I want to know what happened with the rest of them planes and what was happening. So that's what I did, and that's what I set out. And the first one I started was Flight 93, and that was around 2015, 16. And I started collecting data and having a look about what that data represents and what you can draw from it, or what hypothesis or working hypothesis you can produce. And I wasn't comfortable. It took me 5 years before I felt comfortable to really publish that. And in that 5 years, by the way, I had a flight attendant come up to me at a talk, and she's an English lady, and she crossed paths with CC Lyles, who was on Flight 93. And she was really supportive, this lady, of what I was looking into on Flight 93, because she did not believe what she was told.
And that's the distinction. What you've seen in private chat. Sorry to jump in again on you, Mark.
No, please. I can't see the chat, so I can't see the chat questions. If anybody had got a question.
What are you on? Are you on a PC or a laptop?
I've got it on my phone at the moment. I've got my PC in front of me.
Is there not a thing that says comments at top?
Not on my phone now. It doesn't matter. You can read them out if somebody's got a question. Or it is hard to follow this because we have, if people watch the film 9/11 Alchemy, they'd get a better understanding of where, that you can actually watch that film. It talks you through it a little bit like Loose Change, but it's got some new stuff in. And that film, a lot of people don't want to talk about the evidence in that film, who I would expect to be talking about the evidence in that film, by the way.
So it's 9/11 Alchemy. I'm surprised I've not seen it. But you know how you get along, as you get older, and you seem to think you've seen every 9/11 film that there's ever been. I seem to remember one. God, I wish I could find it now. I wish I could find it now, but there were one, and it were like this old guy with this beard, and it were as if it were on fucking Open University, till 7 o'clock in the morning on BBC Two back in the day, and there'll be a bloke, and he started talking about 9/11 and how it was a conspiracy, and I thought, wow, that is great. I've got to find that somewhere. I'm sure I've got it. I've got tons and tons. Nick, we will. If you can tell us how long that video is, we'll play it at the end of the show, won't we? Because we don't really want to impose any more on Mark's stuff. So we'll play it just before end of show. Is that all right with you?
There was that other one that I sent to you as well, Jason, which I actually thought was really good.
Which is.
I sent it to you on, I think it was WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Cops, communist orientated police, idiocracy, anybody?
Basically, this guy's got different doctorates, and he was just explaining how you cannot, it's impossible to catch a virus unless it's injected into your bloodstream. Just like all the old folks have been having flu jabs for years. Sorry, how many people are dying? Anyway, I just thought that was a pretty good one.
I'll watch that, Ade. I'll watch that. And I think Nick just thinks that this one in Coventry is a bit... if someone tells me how long it is, then I'll know when to put it on, and I'll share my screen and put it on. But I don't really want to... We've got Mark, and we're really lucky because we've had Mark twice in 2 weeks in a week. So when I tried to get him on, it took me 5 weeks to get him on in the first place, and now we've had him on twice in 2 weeks. So I don't really want to lose any of his time. Just if you let us know how long that video is, we will play it at the end.
I think it's about 2-3 hours. But go to Chris Hampton's YouTube channel, which is Wolf Clan Media. It's on there.
I'm not playing that. I'm not playing 3 fucking hours.
3.5 minutes.
No, I'm just saying, if people want to go to it, it's Wolf Clan Media. Go to that version because there is copies, but it's censored on YouTube. They've started censoring.
We're talking about 2 different videos. Somebody's posted in the chat room. They've got an interesting, no doubt, coronavirus-based video. It's about 3 minutes long. And we were just asking how long that is. But the one that you're talking about is called
9/11 Alchemy, Facing Reality by Christian Hampton or Chris Hampton. And his YouTube channel is Wolf Clan Media. If you go down some of his videos, you'll see it'll come up. The full version, about 3 hours.
Yeah, I've got it.
Is it more interesting than Judy Wood's 3 hours?
Pardon?
Is it more interesting than Judy Wood's 3 hours?
Well, it's made it's a little bit like loose change, except it's got some really good information in. It's like an updated version. It brings everything up to date.
Yeah.
Of all the new findings, like the people in the Pentagon, official photos of them there, and that they look absolutely burnt to a cinder, yet their clothes are intact. Now that doesn't make sense. Now Chris correlated that with the weapons in Iraq, which there was trialing. He makes he alludes to that, and he puts his bit in about that. He did a lot of research. Even though I found the pictures and noticed that, he went on and did some more research about that, which is included in the film. But anyway, shall I go back about this data and what this data means for Flight 93?
Yes.
And sort of, I'll go through it, because I've got some of it on my screen, I've got some of it on paper. There's a lot of it's telemetry data, but I've tried to do it in a simple way for everybody to try and tag along. So if you see me looking down, it's because some of the things have got acronyms, but I need to explain the acronym before I use acronyms, if you know what I mean, as I go along. So I can tell you step by step, and then you can ask a question, or if you want to chip in, we can do it that way. So I think we all agreed. Yeah. So we all agreed, didn't we, about that this plane this flight allegedly took off. Say allegedly took off at 8:42 a.m. in the official narrative in the 9/11 Commission. Now so it took off 41 minutes late, apparently. So it took off at 8:42. 41 minutes later, it's meant to take off at 8:01, and it never. So there's a couple of discrepancies in the takeoff times in the official data. So this is official sources, and I'll explain why it's important with the takeoff, because there's some anomalies which fit in later on, which is where I put my conclusion at the end of it. So you'll remember this, Jason. So in the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, which is the BTS, I use that acronym, that reveals the discrepancy of the wheels off time of 8:28 a.m., not 8:42, which is in the official 9/11 Commission. Okay, so that's one of the discrepancies. Now, the BTS login for that, the Bureau of Transportation Statistics login database, that gets its information from what they call the Aircraft Communications Addressing Reporting System, which is ACARS data. So its acronym is ACARS. So if I use ACARS, it's the Aircraft Communications Addressing Reporting System. Now, according to the ACARS data, which is sent from the plane to ground stations, that plane took off at 8:28 a.m. Now, that correlates with the BTS system. Yet in the official narrative, they are telling us that the plane took off at 8:42 a.m. So right there, you've got a direct discrepancy in official data. So the official narrative's telling that with the 9/11 Commission, and we've got two sets of data to say the plane took off at 8:28, at 8:42. So that's a massive discrepancy right there. So now the ACARS data is triggered from the plane's wheels leaving the floor, the ground. That triggers the sensor to pick up that information. So there's no human error involved in that. And that data is then sent to the BTS, which is a massive glaring issue to begin with, that is. So that leaves you to say, well, what's going on there? Now, we've got an eyewitness who was in a plane that took off at 8:29 or 8:28, called Stephen Miller. And he reported in his accounts that I think that might have been to 175 actually. Hang on. Yeah, it was 175. So if we go to, forget that bit, that's on flight 175. So that I wanted to try and find out about that information, the two sets of information, what's going on there, because you shouldn't have two lots of information. So you've got this fueler who works at Newark Airport called Anthony Mazza. Now, he's a fueler. He's a technician. He fuels planes. And he fueled Flight 93. Now, after you fuel the plane, you have to get on board and you talk to the captain and you hand over some paperwork to say that the plane's been fueled, etc. I'm cutting a long story short here to try and get the information. When he seen the pictures of the two pilots, the captain and the pilot, he immediately recognised that he didn't speak to either one of them people on Flight 93. He did not recognise them. The two pilots who allegedly meant to have flown Flight 93. So he gave an account of that, and that is in some official FBI documents. Okay, so I went through that and I picked up on that, and I thought that's strange how he didn't recognise these pilots. And it seems like to me that he volunteered that information, and that triggered him to be interviewed. That's the impression I got.
There's a guy I know, he's Australian, but at the moment he's trapped in Thailand, and he's a pilot, right? A380s and everything smaller. And the whole aviation industry, if you're competent to fly an A380 for Qantas, which is originally what he was,
yeah,
and you then move to, I don't know, Singapore Airlines, you can't just get in an A380. You've got to do all of their training.
Yeah.
So even though it's the same class of aircraft, you've still got to do all their training. And
yes.
So the whole thing is so heavily regulated. But he said that one of the most interesting things to him is that he sees the same faces, and it's almost like he's coming into land and he thinks, and he knows who's the guy who's going to be driving the tug. He knows the guy who's going to be there with the paddles waving him in, and he knows whether he's a miserable git or, it might be the middle of the night, but he's actually one of the most cheerful guys in the world, just because he does a bit of, So I know they absolutely do get to know the faces, if not the names of, and it's quite a tight knit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's all within a confined space. It's not.
Of course. It's heavily regulated, and this Anthony Mazza, that triggered him. That he didn't recognise these two people who were meant to be flying that plane. It's in the official story.
What happened?
So that got me thinking. I was very suspicious then. Of hang on, we've got the plane taking off at 8:28, but we've got an official, and it's actually an official air traffic control that it did take off at 8:42. So you've got an actual takeoff happening, yet you've got another takeoff of data at 8:28. Now this, I found that interesting with them two pilots, that he did not recognise them on that particular 93 flight, which ended up me coming across this other story to do with the American football player, I think it was. I just find his name, some crappy name. Have you heard of this Tristan, I think, or Triton White, American footballer?
No.
Oh, are you talking about the guy that decided to give up his contract, and after 9/11 he decided to give up his contract, join the American Army, then we're writing back to the American Army, writing home and saying this was not what we're told it is, and then shot himself twice in the head?
No, this is a different guy. So, as I've got, no, it's not him. So this American, I think, an American footballer, pro footballer, his name's Triton Clayton White. Now, they were being flown, their football team. They do tarmac landings. They don't go in the normal, down the tube. They were boarding from the tarmac on 9/11. Now, 2 weeks after 9/11, he was informed, and he remembers this. It was at what time was it in the morning? Got it here. It was around 6:45 on that morning of 9/11. So, their plane took off the tarmac, and so they've landed there. He sees another plane of passengers boarding a plane. Now, 2 weeks after that, he's informed by one of the flight attendants, air stewardesses here, I think they call them. That plane that was boarding next to theirs that he's seen with the people was Flight 93.
Well,
okay. Now, but that don't correlate again with the official story, because Flight 93 took off at a different gate. That had the tube down to load the passengers onto the plane, apparently. So what it looks like is you've got a witness statement of a fueler who does not recognise some pilots who are allegedly on Flight 93, and you've also got this pro footballer who sees a plane on the tarmac and is informed by an air stewardess that that plane was Flight 93, which would have been impossible normally. However, you've got the two conflicting bits of data of the takeoff time.
So this got me a bit confused. So this footballer sees two planes, and he says, this woman says to one of the one of them's Flight 93. Is this after 9/11? 2 weeks after 9/11. There was the no-fly. So 2 weeks after 9/11, they're boarding back there. He's informed by the air stewardess about that plane that was on the tarmac boarding some passengers. That was Flight 93. And he's on record as saying that. He's on record. I've actually referenced all this. When you go through, you can go and check the links. It's all referenced. Right. Now, that leads me, maybe, with them two pieces of evidence from the fueler and what this footballer's saying, that there could be a possibility that there's two boardings of two different Flight 93s. And as I go on, that will begin to make sense more with the data. Now, it sounds a little bit out there. I know, but again, this is where you get in the conflict in some of the official data.
Mark, I think the thing that's always got it for me about the official data was they'd spent $30 million on the Clinton inquiry, which was busy covering up how much drug running the Clintons do. Yeah, they just at first they ignored the screams for "we want an investigation." Then they kind of went, "Oh well, yeah, we might." Then it's well, we don't need to. And then when they were finally pushed into it, they come up with a budget of $3 million.
Yeah.
And I think after that, they either spent another $9 million or it was a total of $9 million. And it was a lot less than half that they'd spent covering up the Clintons.
Yeah.
What's yours? I mean, obviously, there's loads of anomalies in the official report, like just ignoring the fact that fucking Building 7 even existed. Which is why Building 7 is the biggest. Hello, come and get me, that there's ever been. Yeah. But there's loads of other discrepancies in it. Things that, they can't both be true. So either one is or one isn't, or neither are, but both can't be. and there's quite a lot of that through the report. What's your opinion on the whole report as a whole? Do you think the whole thing's a complete and utter bollocks? Do you think there's bits in there? What is it?
I think there's a lot of covering up going on, and there's also a lot of they fracture the evidence. So unless you can really pick it out, the little nuggets, a lot of it, would go over your head because it would be separate. It's not until you bring things in, that you realise, oh my God, this don't add up. And then as you go through it, you do build a picture, which it'll come into focus in a minute, because there's massive pieces of evidence to prove that there was at least two planes identifying itself as Flight 93 in two different locations. And I'm not talking about blips on screens. I'm actually talking physical planes. So I'll just carry on through quickly. So again, we've done the wheels off. I know it's probably difficult to follow, but it's actually just what I put in the paper, so it reads a lot better, flows. So one of the main things which is quite good that I think they would have had a major difficulty in fabricating is the ACARS data. That would have been a big problem for them, which is why a lot of that data only came out under freedom of information. A lot of that data, they did not want that data coming out. So, but luckily for them, it came out, but a lot of other information was sort of ignored, which suggests. So the ACARS data, they were sending messages from the ground stations up to the plane, and then the plane back down to the ground stations dotted around the country or in that particular area where they would be flying. Now, they have a rough distance of about 170 miles. So when that plane's going over, it will pick up the nearest ground station. That's how it communicates. It's sending data back and forth quite regular. That can sort of help you pinpoint where the position of that plane would be as well. The ACARS. And it's sending downlinks. So that's coming from the plane down to a ground station. So there was quite a few messages sent just prior to Flight 93 crashing at 10:03. I'll go with the official time.
So what was the order that the four planes then? There was North Tower,
South Tower,
North South, Shanksville.
Pentagon, Shanksville.
Pentagon, then Shanksville.
Yeah. So
and the Shanksville one was supposed to be on its way to the White House, apparently, wasn't it?
Yes, and now that's a big factor in what I'm talking about here. Why they suggest that?
Okay.
So this ACARS data is being sent as Flight 93 is going up towards Cleveland, and then allegedly makes its U-turn. I think it's south.
I'm going to say Cleveland's a bloody long way out of his direct route, without a doubt.
Yes, so apparently it does this U-turn. Now, when it does the U-turn, it's still sending these ACARS messages. But what I want to get to, because they can read about them ACARS messages, is the important part. So as that plane crashes at 10:03, there's still ACARS messages being sent to the plane and being received by the plane after the plane crash, which is impossible. And we're talking right up till 11 minutes past 10. That's 7 minutes after that plane has allegedly crashed. Okay. Now, some of the stations that are being reported where that plane is communicating to the ground station is in Champaign, Illinois. Now, Champaign, Illinois is nowhere near Shanksville.
No, Champaign, Illinois. I've been through it. I know exactly where it is. It's a lot further south than they were, yeah.
Exactly. It's further across than where the alleged plane crashes. So you've got one plane communicating with the ACARS data over in Champaign, Illinois, and then messages were being sent and received as it triggered the sound. It's like a noise that's triggered to say that that's been received.
But there were war games going on that day, weren't there?
Oh yes, that's where that's going to come into it. Well done.
Allegedly.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, Wikipedia. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got now, just to be clear, you've got one plane over in Champaign, Illinois, that's communicating through ACARS 7 minutes after the planes allegedly crashed in Shanksville. Right? Now we move to the air traffic control. Now the air traffic control is in tandem with Flight 93 taking off at 8:42, the official time. Okay? Which is in conflict with the ACARS data at the start. Now, when you go through the transcripts and you listen to the recordings of the air traffic control, they give a last coordinate of where Flight 93 is. Okay. Now, their coordinate, everybody can go and do this and type it in on Google Earth, and it's there in the transcript. You can't get it wrong. You type that coordinate into Google Earth, and that coordinate will place Flight 93 15 miles past the crash site.
I think with everything like this, we may well get to the bottom of it, but it ain't going to be bloody quick, is it?
Well, this is where 15 miles past the crash site, that's heading towards Washington.
Yeah.
Right, so this is where the Washington theme comes in. Now, as that's travelling on towards Washington, it is also picked up in the air traffic control that Flight 93 is flashing over Hagerstown, which again is on the way towards Washington. Okay, now, as it's travelling on back there, that plane is spotted by a VFR as well. There's a visual sighting on that plane at 8,000 feet as well. So as that's travelling up, you're getting all these it's confirming that flight is flashing over towards Hagerstown. Now, as that's carrying on, there's other evidence, which I'm going to come to. The transponder was turned on briefly at 10:05 and went off, which is why they could get that last coordinate. Because if the transponder's on, it's giving them that information where that to allow them to have the coordinate that it's Flight 93. Otherwise it'd just be like a primary looking dot on their radar screens. So
it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder that there is actually something that can turn your transponder off on an aircraft. I mean, why would an aircraft going about its daily business, doing 2 or 3 flights a day or whatever they do? Why would there be a need for somebody to turn the transponder off? I don't get that.
Exactly. Well, all the planes had trouble with their transponders being turned off. Now, that could be for various, it's been suggested it's to do with plane swaps. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
But when that plane is heading towards Washington, I've put a video clip on there that Conspiracy Cube was sent to me. We were trying to gather evidence to see whether this plane was heading to Washington. And there's some numerous reports of an unidentified plane at around that time at 10:22 flying towards Reagan National Airport. It's an unidentified plane that's still in the air, and that comes from one of the security experts on one of the news channels, which they are talking about this unidentified plane still being in the air. So I'll put some transcripts on the actual blog to back some of this up to try and explain it.
Mark,
can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
The other thing is, if that plane would have crashed in Shanksville, you would have had what they call an ELT, set-off signal, which is an emergency locator transmitter.
Yeah, of course.
Did not happen. Did not happen. They did not get an ELT signal for that plane crash.
For anybody that don't know, it's just like an airbag thing.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. When it has a certain impact,
yeah,
it sets off a transmitter and come and find me.
Yeah, on a special.
And it literally is like the trigger that they have on an airbag. It's a small explosive, and away it goes. That's it.
So again, I'll put the Linda Justice conversation on my blog. You can go and listen to it where she's saying it's flashing over Hagerstown, which is heading towards the Washington area.
Yeah.
And which I've put a map. You know, I like this best I can so people can see what's what on the actual Google. So that's heading it over 60, 70 miles out past the crash site already. That is Hagerstown.
Yeah.
Again, I've listed some of the transcripts on there so you can look at that. Official from the air traffic controllers. Now, then you get to the information that came out, which isn't very widely known, which I come across, which I found, which was Flight 93 had their flight plan changed.
Really?
Now, this has really been tried to be played down in the I was going to say the Warren Commission, the 9/11 Commission, because they are trying to say that was wasn't done from the plane, but the evidence shows that it had to be done from the plane. That flight plan was changed and requested from the plane, and the requested flight plan was first to Hagerstown, and then the second request was to Reagan National Airport with an estimated time of 10:28 a.m. to land. Now that's reported quite widely in the mainstream media, and I know we don't trust them, but this was early on. This is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on CNN, and I don't think they fully understood what they were divulging there on their flight Explorer. They were telling you, they were showing you what happened with the changes of the flight plans, which places that plane on a direct path to Reagan National Airport. Dateline reported it, MSNBC, CNN, and that's quite early on. Now they tried to play that down in the commission, which I'll show a picture of the commission. They assumed to begin with that it was done from the plane, but I think they knew they'd put the foot in the mouth with that, and they needed to retract that as quick as possible, because they make a point or a need to persuade that it wasn't done from the plane. And you can see that I outlined that actually in there. That's also published in the staff report.
What did you? Well, I'm just sort of wary that we're on time. Do you know, I've been falling asleep. I just keep, I don't know what it is, but I just keep falling asleep.
It's boring.
Tonight, my missus
I'll hurry up quickly. So,
no.
Reagan National Airport.
Your point.
Yeah. So I've backed that up. That plane's heading there. So anybody reading the paper, there's plenty of evidence to back this up. It's not hearsay. It's fully backed up. But the best thing is, I got hold of some spreadsheets to do with where that plane was heading. Now that plane in the spreadsheet confirms the landing at 10:28 at Reagan National Airport. I've also got other evidence from FlightAware that plane landed at 10:28 as well on their site. That's been took down, but we got the screenshots of them and they updated it. They obviously didn't want you to know about that. So we got confirmation of Flight 93, and it's in a lot of evidence, again covered in the film as well, that plane landed at 10:28 at Reagan National Airport. I'll put various links to this and the FlightAware and the spreadsheet telling you that, and backing it up about the unidentified plane that was heading over towards Dulles and National Reagan Airport, possibly going to land, they say. And that was at
what we're going to say is, I'm wary of the time. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes left, and there's something I wanted you to look at and give me your opinion on. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen now. I'm sure you'll recognise it. Viewers at home may not recognise it, but then again, they may.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, to me, that picture doesn't matter whether it's real or fake, does it? Because a plane never crashed there.
That's yeah.
If that was a plane crash, it wouldn't look like that. Looks like Taylor farting.
Definitely wouldn't look like that. Definitely wouldn't look like that.
That looks like Taylor having a wank. Don't know about farting. Anyway, yeah, that's Val McClatchy's End of Serenity. She made an absolute fortune on that photo. And you know, people were going to visit her and see where she'd, you know, where she'd seen it from and everything. She made an absolute fortune out of it, and that's what it's become, hasn't it? It's become an industry, the whole lot of it.
Can I just tell you one thing quickly, though? Can I say one thing? Reagan National Airport plays a big part in the Flight 93. That airport was closed for 3 weeks. That was the only airport that was closed for 3 weeks out of all the airports. It was closed down for 3 weeks.
Is that the one in Cleveland?
No, that's the one, Washington, Reagan National Airport. Now, the other plane that's over by, already up over in Champaign, Illinois, I've got other evidence to say that that plane actually turned round and possibly, from what I've put on from the ACARS, possibly from the evidence, landed at Cleveland. The other Flight 93, I believe, landed at Cleveland at Hopkins Airport at 10:45. Because you've got the mayor announced that, didn't he? He announced it, and then that was pulled. So there was obviously some type of confusion with these 2 flights.
I mean, there were lots of things, weren't there, that went on.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got President Bush reading My Pet Goat upside down to a bunch of kids, and then the words on the screen. The words that the kids must learn today are steal, hit, must, kite. You know, kite must hit, steal, and just the amount of piss taking that goes on. You know, and it just Bush reading that upside down. Anybody says is always Bush. That's just how he is.
I mean, you asked me about that plane hole. Did you know the plane hole in Shanksville? The actual official report shows there's no jet fuel contaminated that hole.
Well, Mark, what I was going to ask you was, for a lot of people, they're kind of, don't you think 9/11 was real then? Well, yeah, I believe that 2 things did fall and a shitload of people died then and since. But I don't really believe the official story.
No.
It's bullshit.
Fantasy. But it is a story.
For a lot of people, Building 7's the thing. For other people, it's the fact that the first tower to get hit wasn't the first tower to fall. For other people, it's the planes. What's the one thing about Flight 93 that kind of goes, look, this was clearly, there was something fucking wrong here? What's the one thing? What's the big flag?
An empty hole.
There you go.
Empty hole in the field. There's a lot. I mean, I can't mention it now. It's in the film. There's a lot of anomalies with that crime scene, which is in that film. The trees, for instance, them trees, they look like you've got strange fuming around that area. You've got a cottage that weren't even near the crash site that was shifted off its foundations, you know, by 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and it was trash. The cottage was ruined.
There was also the coroner that said, I stopped being coroner after about 5 minutes because there were no bodies and not even a drop of blood.
Yeah.
Really?
He backtracked on that, didn't he? He did backtrack. But he said what he said. Nothing was taken out of context of what he said. But there's some strange anomalies in that particular, which is covered in the film, which is very strange, which, you know, like I say, the iron in the water, and the fact that they've had to put a water feature there, like they did at the Pentagon. The Pentagon's got strange anomalies as well, which we will be publishing about. Maybe Chris might be doing a follow-up set of films. I don't know. I don't know how that stands now with everything going on. But it's very difficult to some of the anomalies to be put to conventional stuff. conventional means. Sorry.
What's your thought about the memorial that I've got pictured behind me? What's your thoughts about that, Mark?
Well, again, that's got many on different levels. That they could be, bringing people there, don't they? It's to do with it's brainwashing for one, isn't it?
I mean, I think a lot of it's NLP. I mean, there are people who remarked on what it's made of, the shape of it, the positioning of it, the lines and all. Almost fucking everything.
Yes, there's a massive occult element to this and the numerology. So, even to the 1003 being moved, 1006 and it being moved to 1003. There's people doing research on that to do with them numbers and what that means. Now, I'll give you an example quickly at the Pentagon, which hasn't come out yet, which is all these road rails around by the Pentagon with the unofficial flight path and official flight path. Them road guardrails, they're suffering from rusting up. There's something rusting them road rails up for no reason. And it's ongoing. And they're not replacing some of it. And some of it they're just taking away and not bringing back. Them are strange effects which are unexplainable. And I've documented them. And not many people want to talk about them strange effects. And what have you got? You've got a massive water feature right in front of that building with a plantation of trees. Now, trees are great for soaking up the type of effects that I'm talking about. Same as what they planted on the site at the World Trade Center. Same as what they planted at the site at Shanksville.
Yeah. There's a lot of symbolism and stuff, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Now, we've had a couple of people asking in the chat room, where can we have a link to Mark's work? So just run through all the places where people can click on or whatever, that Facebook or InstaShout or whatever that you use.
It's a blog I started in 2013, and it's Mark-Conlon, CONLON.blogspot.com. All lowercase. Mark-Conlon.blogspot.com.
Is there stuff on there that you originally posted that you've now changed?
I update things, but I've updated this information. I add to certain articles when we get new data. For instance, the Michael Hezekiah not being on the ferry boat. That's proof he was on that ferry boat. We've proved that now, beyond doubt. It all lines up, everything. We've had somebody go there and to the Pentagon and to Shanksville. We've got a friend on the ground who's visited them places, and we've lined stuff up. We've got photos took off the ferry boat, and they claim there was nobody else taking photographs. That's all documented on there. It's new evidence that people need to consider. So
that's your blog. The film that you were talking about was 9/11 Alchemy. Is that that's just available on YouTube?
Yeah, that's on Wolf Clan Media. That's his YouTube channel.
Yeah. And
if you scroll down his videos, go to 9/11 Alchemy Facing Reality, the full version. Should be about 2 hours, 59 minutes, something like that, maybe 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I think it is still on there. But on other people's, they've censored that video. If not, go to my BitChute channel, which is Mark Conlon Blogspot. Because it's on there as well.
I'm sure we'll find it.
You and your Black Sisters just stuck that in the chat bin.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the only, the only research I've done. I've done stuff where I've helped Richard D. Orr with the Joe Cox stuff, so I'm not solely onto the 9/11. Although that's my main stuff that I have done, put out. But I have helped, different people with, like Chris with his film, and I had a bit of input into Richard's film as well. To do with the Tommy.
He's certainly an interesting character to have on, and we are honoured to have had you on twice in a week. We did say we'd play a video right near the end, and as it's 2 minutes before the end of the video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the video, and then I'm gonna end the stream. So
I just want to can you put a link up to that one that I sent, Jason? Can you just put it in the chat or something? That one that I sent you on.
Did you not see that picture I sent you?
No.
Oh, look on WhatsApp. Look on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I sent you a picture on WhatsApp. I got fucking banned from my own fucking YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because I put something in that somebody said was spam. So it's one of them fucking spanners in there that have set something up that's spam. It's got me. So yeah, we'll find it. People will find it. We've got no to do. It's not like, oh, I'm at work tomorrow, unless you were a key worker or something like that. And if you are, then bless you. And we salute you.
Anyway, I'd just like to say we've had Uni Black Sister kissing Mark's ass all night.
He might like Mark's ass.
Yeah.
So
can I just say one thing before I end off? I'd ask anybody just to keep an open mind and to be open to the new information. Don't take my word for it. Do your own. If there's something wrong with mine, I'm open. Please contact me. I update things. I'm not like Simon Shack, rigid, and that's it. And the other thing is, if you want to know about the cover-up of the image stuff and covering up, there's Andrew's book, 9/11 Holding the Truth. You got the first one he did, 9/11 Finding the Truth. If you want to know about the energy effects, Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? Also, you got Morgan Reynolds' site, people like that.
Awesome. Well, we've got them in. Well, thanks very much to everyone that's been in the chat room tonight. I don't know when we're going to be back on. We'll definitely be back on Monday and Tuesday next week, but there may be a situation where we really need to be on in the meantime. So just look out for us. We will be letting people know in plenty of time when we're going to be cruising for a bruising. So I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to play this video.
Just before you do, I've just put a link into that one that was, I think it's a good one. It's just underneath Cardini's. It's just above Uni Black Sister. Stick it in, have a look at it. I think it's a good one. Like Mark just said, be open-minded to changes in your way of looking at life. It's probably the most important thing you can ever think of, I think.
Brilliant. Cheers, Ade, and cheers to you, Mark. We're going to finish off with this. I'm going to share my screen, see if I can get it to work.
While Jason's doing all his non-technical shit, thank you very much, Mark. Fascinating, and you're welcome back anytime. I had some great comments in the chat room, so thank you.
Okay, here we go. Hope it fucking plays. Okay, do you know this fucking computer's a pile of bollocks?
Should be working. Play.
Pause it. Play. It's not fucking playing. Oh. Do you know this is the bane of my life? Here we go. It's playing.
Right, listen up, everyone. I've got some first-hand, 100% reliable information from somebody who is working for Conlan University Hospital as we speak. And this is first-hand, 100%, guaranteed, accurate information, and you really need to listen to this. They're saying, right, they've told me, this person, that we have people coming in who supposedly have got the coronavirus, they've been tested by the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, go to the hospital because you've got the coronavirus. They are walking in, and this person has told me that they are giving them the corona vaccine and they're literally dropping dead. And then they're trying to give them the flu jab as well, so we'll take this instead. They're giving some people the flu jab. This person has told me this is 100% accurate. Guys, please take notice of this. That the people are walking into the hospital because the doctors have referred them. They're walking in with their families. They're going there. They're getting the vaccine they're giving them, and they are literally dropping dead. and now the police are outside the blocking the hospital door. And the reason why I think the police are there is because family's going to think they walked in and now they're fucking dead. So guys, whatever you do not tell anybody that you got some sort of symptom, because the doctor's going to send you to the fucking hospital, and no matter what happens, do not take any fucking vaccine they give you, flu jab, whatever the fuck it is. These sly fuckers, they keep saying they're expecting a massive peak now, right? They're clearing out the hospitals because they know, we've got 4,000 beds ready, because there's going to be a big one. Why are they thinking it's going to be a big one? Because the fuckers are doing this. This is first, I cannot emphasize enough, this is first-hand, 100% accurate information as we speak. People are walking in, supposedly with the coronavirus, referred from their GP, and they're going in there, they're doing a few tests, they're giving them a vaccine, and they are literally dropping dead. Okay, guys, this is what they're fucking trying to do, and this is what they're going to plan on doing. This is why they're so cool. There's going to be a massive uprise, because this is what the fuckers are going to do. So, guys, and this, I think it's going to be more for the old people. If an old person goes in, I'm not feeling well, doctors and say, go into the hospital, they can give them a vaccine, all of a sudden they're going to fucking die. And a friend of mine, who she messaged me, she asked how she was just generally a couple of days ago. She goes, yeah, I've lost my auntie to the coronavirus. So I messaged her back and said, oh, she's not well. She goes, yeah, she went in with a bit of pneumonia, and then when she went to the hospital, she caught the virus and she died. So just like that, you go into the hospital, you've got a bit of pneumonia, you go in, you're not like bedbound or anything like that, and then all of a sudden you die. So listen to me, people, right? Do not take this vaccine that they're going to give you. Okay, this coronavirus is a load of bullshit. It's just some basic flu symptoms which you're going to get over, and they're going to scare you to saying, right, you need to go to the hospital now. You've got this virus. You're going to go there. They're going to give you a vaccine. And like I said, this person's told me by people are coming in fine. They're walking in with their families. We're giving them a few tests, see if they got the virus. We give them a vaccine, and they're literally dropping dead. And now there's old bill fucking everywhere blocking the entrances. So guys, please, this is what I'm saying. Don't fucking take no vaccines. Spread this if you can.
There you go. So we stopped sharing.
Interesting.
This is interesting, isn't it?
Interesting.
People dropping dead. Well, where are we? Down here. Well, that's it then for tonight.
Yeah, I just want to say that I put that link in if anybody wants to click on that. Seriously, that is one of the better ones that I've seen. It actually did come from Max Egan. But I didn't click on Max's version. I clicked on the original version, which is what I put the link into. And the guy got some interesting stuff to say. But it's like Mark Conlon said, you've got to be open to your mind being changed, because one thing we don't know is everything. I think we're all fucking working on it, right? But we don't know.
Didn't Socrates once say, wisdom is knowing how little we know?
Yes, yeah, I think it was Socrates. Or Socrates, which I think is much more of an appealing way of pronouncing his name.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got to go. My dog really needs a wee.
Okay.
And I really need to go downstairs and be tired. Yeah. So thanks, Mark. Mark, you've been awesome. Cheers to you, Adie, as usual. My esteemed co-host.
Can I just say that I think there's that much happening at the moment. We've got Easter coming up, and Easter to me seems to be a bit of a milestone to get to, because if you look at what's happening to almost half of the fucking world since Christmas, or even since my birthday on the 6th of March, things are never going to go back to how they were.
No.
And I think it's just that. And all I'm trying to say, Mark, is if you've got anything that you want to chuck in over the next week, couple of weeks, 3 weeks, as this thing sort of unfolds, then please get in touch, because you are a bit of a kind of a hive of knowledge of lots of different areas, and I know that the kind of NHS and that sort of area is one of those things that you've got a pretty good grounding in. So if you feel that you've got something to add, please get in touch and come back on one night, because I think we're not going to be just doing Mondays and Tuesdays. I think it's pretty much going to be almost every night of the week if Jason can stay awake.
Yes, which brings me to the end of the show.
It does indeed.
Thanks to everyone who's taken part in the chat room. You're all most welcome. Thanks to Mark as well. and we'll see you at the latest next Monday.
Yeah, I think I'll see you tomorrow.